Number 10. The Dybbuk Box. Okay, we'll start this list off with a DIY. Yeah, here we go. This is why you should never, ever make your own Ouija board. Don't even think about it. In Jewish folklore, a Dybbuk is an evil spirit. A Jewish survivor who made it through all the horrors of World War II and everything. The legend has it that said survivor managed to trap a demon inside of a wine cabinet. Now that on its own is terrifying. So now what? What do you do? What do you do with a locked away demon? Well, that's where Kevin Manis comes in. Yeah, Kevin bought the box in 2001, and as soon as he bought the box, he had these vivid nightmares. Nightmares of an old witch, and his friends who hung out with him also had the same nightmare. So yeah, not great. Haunted by association. Not great at all. Manis gave the box to his mother for some reason. He thought this was a better plan than, burning it in a cornfield or throwing it into the ocean. But he passed it along to his mother, and apparently she had a stroke the very next day. Almost like it was indeed haunted. The last owner, Jason Haxton, director of the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine, he sealed the Dybbuk back in the box and then hid it from the world. Great move. Finally, nice. We love that. That's a smart move. Number 9. Cursed brick. Perhaps one of the least terrifying items on this list, but haunted nonetheless. The brick from the Borley Rectory, aka a brick from one of the most haunted houses in all of England. The house was originally built back in 1862. It was a house built for the rector of Borley, but after a fire in 1939, it was never the same. It was now haunted. But it was finally demolished in 1944. Gone. Good. Poof. Good. Get this thing out of here. But before its final days, the Daily Mirror printed about this house. Harry Price, a paranormal researcher at the time, he reported sightings of a ghost nun or a ghost car driving by that same property, as well as footsteps and unexplained sounds all around it. So yeah, a little piece of this haunted home still sits in the Warren Occult Museum today. The haunted brick from the old haunted Borley. The haunted brick? I don't know. This one's not scary. I want to see this one in Conjuring 4, I bet. I don't think we're going to see this one. Number 8. Werewolf paw. Okay, this one we did see in the live-action Conjuring universe. In Annabelle Comes Home, we see in the museum a werewolf paw sitting on a shelf. Then later on in the movie, we see a real werewolf outside of the Warrens. Now, this is most likely a nod to a London case involving the Warrens, which happened in real life, where a man was behaving like a werewolf. Yeah, he would just flip and then become one. Not physically, obviously, that would be kind of terrifying, but he would use his fingers like claws and he would growl and he would attack people on the streets of London, like he would act like a werewolf. This man was William Ramsay, and the Warrens believed that this was the same spirit responsible for transforming humans into wolves back in the day. Yeah, the old classic lycanthropy. We love that. In 1989, the solution was for Ed and Lorraine to bring Bill to the States, where Bishop Robert McKenna performed an exorcism, turning the man back to his regular, non-werewolf self. So if you see a paw, still attached, not attached, just don't touch it. I don't know, paws are gross in general. Like a brick versus a paw, Gross. Number 7, Dante and Virgil in Hell. Okay, we're gonna crank it up a little bit. Going back to some artwork, some haunted, spooky art. Here you go. This terrifying work of art was created in 1850 and is currently on display in Paris. This painting is depicting a scene from Dante's Divine Comedy, which is basically about Dante being taken on a journey through hell with Virgil showing him the way. The painting shows a certain scene where Dante and Virgil are witnessing damned souls intertwining in eternal combat. You can only imagine what that looks like, or smells like. Probably not a good one. One of the souls was believed to be a heretic, which is now, how he landed into the underworld. And the other soul we see in the picture, who's, biting his neck, was thought to be a man who falsely claimed another man's inheritance, which certainly is not a good thing to do if that happens in real life. Consult a lawyer, maybe, don't be biting anyone's neck. There's some obvious possessions in this picture. The painting also features some sort of terrifying creature flying in the background. That's always fun, just a cameo, a nice dragon cameo, as well as a lot more damned souls fighting in the fiery pits. Yeah, these pits are often full of souls. Full o' souls. This whole painting is just a stunning piece of art as well as an absolute nightmare, so yeah, art. It's nice and balanced, as all things should be. Number 6, the Nightmare painting. Another one, just while we're on the arts vibe, the artsy vibe. The Nightmare was created in 1781, and there's a lot going on in this one here. The painting shows a woman who is fast asleep with her arms thrown out below her, which is all fine and well and dandy, but there's also some sort of demon, incubus thing sitting on her chest. It's always something, right? You always gotta mess up this nice image, this beautiful, lovely image, which is, a weird thing to look at. The painting is said to display a woman dreaming and also the nightmare she is having at the same time, which is, that's art, that's fun, that's an eerie description. There are red velvet curtains hanging in the background with creepy horse heads poking out of them, which is also said to, help them into the nightmare vibe. The colors represent so much of what's going on in this painting, with the sleeping woman being brightly colored and shown and the rest of the painting being much darker in contrast. It's kind of haunting to look at, honestly. Makes you feel weird looking at it, but you know what? That's art. Number 5. Cursed goat. Yeah, a cursed animal, let's do it. The curse of the billy goat. Can an entire team be cursed? It seems so. I mean, I live in Toronto, home of the Maple Leafs, so, you know, seems pretty cursed in this area. We haven't seen a win in, I don't know, 96 decades. But the Chicago Cubs curse, that was a huge deal for a long time. The Chicago Cubs curse comes from 1945, when a man named Bill Sionis, nicknamed Billy Goat, he was kicked out of a Chicago Cubs game. Why, you ask? Well, he didn't even get into game 4 to begin with because, well, was he too intoxicated? Or did he bring a live goat with him to the game? Maybe a bit of both, who knows? Yeah, Bill brought with him his pet goat for good luck. So after the staff said no, you can't, enter the 1945 World Series with a live goat, of course not, he then cursed the club over and over on the way out, saying the Cubs are never gonna win another game. And that was the game they dropped the ball, figuratively and literally. The Detroit Tigers won and the curse of the Billy Goat kicked off. It got so out of hand that come 1994, great year, the Cubs had lost 12 games in a row, their worst home start in history. So Sam Sionis went to Wrigley Field, he went back, and everybody was chanting to now let the goat in. And then the Cubs won 5-2, so I don't know. Humans in the 1700s were like, yeah, that woman's cursed, let's just, hang her. And then this is like, he's not cursed, let's bring him into the Wrigley's sports field, let's do it. Oh, how times have changed. Insane. Number 4. The Dark Mirror. Wasn't this the second Thor movie that nobody liked? The Dark Mirror is part of a fun little collection, the world's only mobile museum of the unexplained. Nice. Get your haunts on the go-go. This mirror supposedly doesn't shine bright like a diamond, but instead this dark mirror has a life of its own. The museum obtained it from the original owner who purchased it at a psychic fair in the Columbus area. Pretty solid place to get something like that, so yeah, it checks out. That same owner said the mirror reflected horrifying visions when gazing into it. Now, according to the museum, visitors also claim to have reported uncomfortable sightings, such as their own corpse when gazing into the reflective glass. Yeah, no spoilers, Mirror. I'm only on season 27 of my life. I don't want to see how it's going to happen. I had a crazy dude downtown tell me which day I was going to die in grade 11 on a field trip. He was like, in 7 years, you will die. I'm like, okay. And I was scared for 7 years. Was that a curse? I think that was a curse. Number 3, the Busby Stoop chair. Yeah, we gotta include a haunted chair, whatever. We threw in a brick, some pieces of art. Why not? Let's throw in a Busby Stoop chair. This chair comes from 1702, 10 years after the Salem witch trials, so take this one with a grain of salt. People made odd choices back then. Women were witches and chairs were evil. Welcome to 1702. Hit that thumbs up. Englishman Thomas Busby had some issues with his father-in-law and he didn't handle them too well, so now he has to be hanged for it. Yeah, you can't just kill people for no reason, Thomas. What is this, 1692? Idiot, read a book. He was hanged near the Humble Inn, pretty ironic, but a chair that was nearby is now said to hold that spirit of one Thomas Busby. Yeah, if you sit on this chair, you are set to die in a frightful accident. If you sit on this chair, you are set to die in a frightful accident. Nice, a nice frightful accident. You can only imagine. The horrors. You're actually at a haunted desk in this office. That's actually where I'm sitting. Kyle, you're at the haunted desk. I don't want to tell you that. So the chair was declared haunted, but did anything actually happen here? Honestly, yeah. Locals said during World War II, airmen from a nearby base came to the pub, and those who sat on it never returned. I mean, may have had something to do with the war, but sure, like I said, grain of salt. But then in the 70s, more accidents were connected, but they still kept it around until 1978 for some reason, yeah. It stayed in the inn for that long, until it was donated to the Thirsk Museum. It's not even a rocking chair either, it looks like an uncomfortable chair. Why people would sit on this in the first place, I don't know. Number 2, the underworld. I'm not necessarily sure if I have to explain this one and how it's haunted, because the name it carries it for itself. This painting by Hans Memling was created in 1485, and it's, as its name hints towards, a little bit terrifying. This is one of 3 double-sided panels that were created, and it features a banner that reads, "There is no redemption in hell." Nice. I always wondered, now we know for sure, thanks. 1485 education. The painting features some sort of demon creature with fangs and bat-like wings, real comforting to see at 2 a.m. And then it features another entire face on its belly, which I've never seen before. That's very artistic, I love that. Its hands and feet are claw-like and it's depicted stepping or dancing on the backs of people who are in the mouth of some sort of beast. Of course, also engulfed in flames the entire time. Obviously. This whole painting is absolutely terrifying to look at, especially for those who believe in the existence of hell. It would be extremely interesting to know exactly where these inspirations for this piece came from. Is it from a believer, a non-believer? I'm curious, how do you think of something and then go, oh, nice. And then for 46 years, work on this haunting image. You know what I mean? Number 1, broken mirror history. Okay, we gotta talk about why this happens. It doesn't matter who you are, you've heard of this one before. You break a mirror, what do you get? You get a broom first, obviously. Then you get 7 years of bad luck. Has this ever happened to you? If so, what year are you on? I'm on year 5 and 3. and 7. I'm clumsy, I don't know. Ancient Romans believed that the human soul would renew every 7 years. That's where the whole 7-year thing comes into place when we do this. It takes time to repair the human soul, apparently. That combined with the belief that a mirror's reflection was the only way into the soul, well, now we have one guy historically who feels really bad for breaking a mirror. Therefore we have a curse that lives on. And we still talk about it today. If you break a mirror, you're tearing the soul from the body and you're abandoning it. That's what you're doing. Yeah, you're not messing up your living room, you're abandoning your own soul. Tell your dad that next time you drop something. In Kazakhstan, if you break a mirror, evil spirits will haunt the person responsible for said damage. Nice, that checks out, that makes sense. They say you can't look into the broken mirror pieces afterwards because that is also bad luck as well. So if you break a mirror, you gotta just kind of do nothing about it. I don't know. Just gotta kind of sweep without looking at it. You're like, I think I got them all. I don't know. Just watch your feet. Wear flip-flops for a week. I can't look down. There's too many mirrors now, honestly. Everywhere I go, it's just reflections. There's like mirrors in the back of people's phones. Ancient Romans had no idea what 2022 would look like. Do phones count? If so, I'm Number 10. Lizzie Borden's house. A bed and breakfast located at 230 2nd Street is home to one of America's most haunted and mysterious houses ever. Now, the Lizzie Borden house gets its momentum from the unsolved murder, of course, of Lizzie Borden back in 1892. She's one of the most infamous true crime figures known for killing her father and stepmother horribly. She did it with a hatchet. Just in case you're thinking, how did she do it? A hatchet. There's a twisted rhyme about the incident, but I'm not gonna sing that here. I'm not getting cursed on YouTube, but thanks. If you know it, hum it. It's pretty catchy. 1892, Lizzie's stepmother of 27 years, she was hit 19 times while her father, Andrew, was hit 11 times. Now, although Lizzie Borden was acquitted and found not guilty, the dark history draws in crowds, of course, every night for its nightly tour of the premises. Gotta make a buck off this horrible history, right? Netflix and, you know, real life. The Lizzie Borden room, the infamous room where these horrors took place, is requested for the most paranormal overnighters. Yeah, some 1408 stuff. People staying overnight in haunted houses. Would you ever do this? Number 9. Leap Castle. Leap Castle, Ireland. Built around 1250, this beauty was one of the most lived-in castles in Ireland. It was built originally by the O'Bannon family. The classic happens, father dies, powerful family, no successor to the throne. This turned into a brother versus brother kind of deal. Things got shady, a lot of family attacks, nobody could get along, so now we got a castle full of ghosts. A popular sighting is 2 haunting ghost girls playing in the main hallway. Their apparition has been seen since the 1600s. But the most famous sighting is that of the Red Lady. The Red Lady wears a long red dress. She's tall and lean and she has one of her hands raised. That's terrifying. Can you imagine a ghost trying to block you at all times, just coming down the hallway? Number 8, the Ram Inn. An ancient old haunted inn. Nope, I could never. Also, this one doubles as a functioning pub located in England. Okay, that one I could probably do. That one I could maybe do. The inn has been owned and operated by many folks since as early as the 1100s. The ancient Ram Inn has been investigated by years of paranormal researchers. Shows like Ghost Adventures, Most Haunted, Ghost, you know, you name it, all of them, people with, you know, they've stood around there and pointed things. Haunted, for sure haunted. That's what they did. They stood there and went. Legend has it that the energy from Stonehenge actually feeds the property's paranormal power. Not to mention the backyard is home to a 5,000-year-old pagan burial ground. Stonehenge feeding power? I mean, that's one way to save on your electricity bill. You know, got any tips? Sans ghosts, got any tips? Number 7, Kaluapapa. Heading over to the beautiful Hawaii for this one. I know one of our viewers is from Hawaii. Always wanted to go. Thing is, islands in the middle of the ocean scare the shit out of me. And also, haunted villages. Yeah, we don't like both of those combined. This was once referred to as the most cursed place on Earth. The coast of Molokai sounds like a great time, and from Google Earth it certainly looks like a fair weekend getaway, but for over 100 years, this was an isolation coast for patients with leprosy. That of course had to change at some point, and the laws did in 1969. But as of right now, no more than 5 people live on this part of the island due to its cursed history. Fair, that's more than fair, I wouldn't do it. Would you do it? Would you live on a cursed island? I mean, it's beautiful, you get a tan, sure, but you'd also get haunted. Number 6, the Conjuring Farmhouse. We may have a clear photo with the real Bathsheba Sherman, aka a real life witch from the Conjuring movie. Yeah, this photo is from the Perrin family farmhouse back when it was the old Arnold estate. Now, if you've seen the first Conjuring film, it's based on those events that happened in this estate in real life. This was 1885 and this witch lived next door to the farm. And although we'll never really know it, many believe she's the lady in the middle closest to the camera. Also, the fact that she's standing by herself, I feel like that's for sure a witch. You know, like the vibe of the group was off. Everyone kind of like shuffled away from the witch. This is the real house. It's referred to by the parent family as the Old Arnold Estate. So 2 names gets kind of confusing, but it's the one place. It's located in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Aside from paranormal horrors, the parent family also had to deal with financial ones. When the family lived there, a pipe burst randomly and then just flooded their entire business, so they had to sell off more than 85% of their land. Do you guys think the real Bathsheba Sherman is in this photo? The lady on the left there also looks a little witchy. I don't know. But who am I to judge? It's greedy. Number 5. Amityville House. You've more than likely seen this photo, either in the Amityville horror movie, or maybe you've seen it go viral since. The demonic ghost boy photograph. Also, great name, really gets to the point. This photo was taken inside the actual Amityville house back in 1976. It was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared, and a photographer named Gene Campbell set the whole operation up. Gene was working with paranormal investigators at the time. He was working with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Yeah, the classic. Now we're getting it. Now we're, oh, this may be real. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show. Now, of course, it was a big deal, and many believe this is in fact one ghost of John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there before that horrible 1974 event. What do you guys think? Elaborate hoax, or perhaps this photo is one solid piece of evidence that maybe, probably the Amityville horror house is indeed haunted? Number 4, the Queen Anne Brick Mansion. Heading over to Georgia for this haunted mansion. When I say mansion, also, I mean like Haunting of Hill House type mansion, not like Will Smith mansion. Know what I mean? No one's playing tennis in the back of this one. In Savannah's Columbia Square, the Queen Anne Brick Mansion was built in 1892 for William and Anne Kehoe and their 10 kids. After a few deaths took place in the house, the building was converted into a bed and breakfast. And since 1992, guests have reported hearing footsteps, seeing ghosts, and also sounds of kids playing. I don't want that in a regular bed and breakfast, let alone a haunted one, you know? Just let me sleep. Why am I hearing squeaks, like shoe squeaks outside? Maybe we're in Will Smith's mansion, maybe. Maybe they're playing tennis. Number 3, Bangor Fort. Back in the 16th century, King Madho built the massive Bangor Fort in India. Now, the population of this small town was around 1,000, give or take. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful fort. Many considered this a luxury, and rightfully so. It looks like a set piece from Game of Thrones. But legend has it, Princess Ratnavati, who at the time was living in the luxurious fort, she was the talk of the town. Dudes were proposing left, right, and center, trying everything to get her attention. Princes of all over the world would come in and try and take her hand. Now, one day when visiting town, a magician named Scindia saw the princess shopping for perfume, so he planned on using the black magic of Vashikaran on the princess. Yeah, he mixed it with the perfume that she was admiring, but it didn't work. The princess smashed the perfume, and as the bottle broke apart, the magician cursed the entire fort and those living inside of it. Only days later, a war erupted around the fort, and there were, of course, tons of casualties. So let's avoid this area forever, shall we? I mean, a magician curse, there's a war 2 days later, it's a fort. Those are hot words, I'm not going in that area. Number 2, the Humble Inn. Sounds very humble, sounds calm. The Busby Stoop chair comes from 1702, and its curse arrived promptly after Englishman Thomas Busby had some issues with his father-in-law at the Humble Inn. Yeah, he also didn't handle these issues too well, so now he has to be hanged for it. Can't just kill people, Thomas, alright? Relax. He was hanged right near the Humble Inn, but a chair that was nearby is now said to hold that spirit of one Thomas Busby. If you sit on this chair, you are set to die in a frightful accident. A frightful accident. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds frightful, sounds horrible. Locals say during World War II, airmen from a nearby base came to the pub, and those who sat on this chair never returned. In the 70s, more accidents were also connected, but they still kept the chair around at the Humble Inn for some reason until 1978. At that point, the chair was donated to the Thirsk Museum, where it now sits haunted. So that's great. Imagine just like dealing with a haunted chair. That's a lot of responsibility. Not even a rocking chair either, just a chair. And finally, number 1, the Dark Mirror. The Dark Mirror, is that the Thor sequel nobody liked, or is that something else? The Dark Mirror is part of a fun little collection, the world's only mobile museum of the unexplained. So yeah, could approach in your neighborhood anytime. I don't know, keep an eye out for floating mobile museums. This mirror that travels with it supposedly doesn't shine bright like a diamond. Instead, this dark mirror has a life of its own. The museum obtained it originally from the owner who purchased it at a psychic fair in the Columbus area. That's a pretty solid place to get something like that. It checks out. The same owner said the mirror reflected horrifying visions when they gazed into it. And according to the museum, visitors also claimed to have reported uncomfortable sightings such as their own corpse when gazing into the reflective glass. Yeah, I'm looking in, I'm like, no spoilers. I'm only on season 28 of Life, so I'm gonna gaze away. Number 10, St. George's Church. Kicking off our spooky list, we're gonna head to the Czech Republic. St. George's Church was originally built way back in 1352. That's a long time ago, and it's seen many dark days, of course. The building itself was destroyed many times by fires, century after century, yet it somehow survived all of them. One of the worst timed events ever happened in 1968, and this is what makes people think it's haunted. More than fair. The roof partially collapsed during a funeral service, and after that point, everyone was convinced that the church was haunted, and they refused to enter and do any more services inside. More than fair. That's the worst timing ever. I'm thinking of I Think You Should Leave Season 2, Coffin Drop. I'm thinking of that sketch right now. That's gonna be in my head all day. The location is still a hotspot. Since 2012, many visitors entered the cursed church. Would you go in? Would you do it? I would, probably. I'd poke my hand in a little, see what happens. I'm terrified of ghosts. I wouldn't go near that. Number 9, Edinburgh Castle. Scotland's capital city. I've been to Scotland a handful of times. It's one of my favorite places to visit. All those pubs, ooh, what a good time. Wish I could remember. It's got a castle, I've heard. You got a castle over there. Apparently, Edinburgh Castle, I of course have to visit every time I go. It's a calf workout that I look forward to, personally. Now, some of these parts in the castle are chilling, because it's freezing cold in Scotland, but sometimes you can feel the haunt in the air. These rooms date back to more than 900 years ago, so these walls have seen a few fortnights. Sightings are pretty popular. Sightings of a colonial prisoner from the American Revolutionary War, that's pretty common, so that's terrifying to hear. And as well as French prisoners from the 7 Years' War. You're just gonna see ghosts of prisoners that might pop up or photobomb you. That's really, I'm terrified talking about this. If you're thinking about visiting, perhaps the ghost of the wandering dog in the castle cemetery will convince you to buy a ticket. I love Scotland, it's beautiful. The air just smells nice. Got a big old hill too. Number 8, Almadam. Almadam is about 40 miles southeast of Dubai. This ghost village was built back in the 1970s and it was deserted shortly after. It's beautiful, but legend has it the land is full of shape-shifting spirits, you may have heard of them, called jinns. Now these spirits are responsible for scaring folks away from the town. Yeah, that ought to do it. Now it's tough to tell whether the spirits have since departed. I mean, that would be ideal, but Almadam still looks haunted and it still is abandoned, so yeah, my vote is probably still haunted. Dunes that partially swallow rows of houses and a mosque, it all just sits there, stuck in history. Now these spirits are still living in the 70s, so who knows? This is their home, not ours, so let's just leave this one alone. It looks like something out of Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, you know what I mean? All the sand, just barren. It's haunting, so jarring to look at. Or that one level from Mario Odyssey that's just, sand and nothing else. Number 7, Gunnover, Iceland. This one has heavy history behind it. Holy smokes. Now, sometimes places are haunted by multiple ghosts, past prisoners, while others have, just one up story. Iceland's Gunnover Mud Pool. Perhaps you visited. It sounds kind of, nice when I say it out loud. It's one of the largest and haunted. Apparently, the pool was named after Gunna, a woman who lived in this area of the peninsula 400 years ago. Sadly, Gunna passed away of starvation, but her spirit apparently came back home and killed the current landlord and his wife. It was terrifying. That's a big yikes. The town called in a priest to take care of that issue, but of course, some visitors today claim to see that same ghost of one Gunna around the very same boiling hot mud pool. One Gunna sounds like a rapper. I don't know why I said that. Ghost or no ghost, I'm not going anywhere. This sounds like an expensive hazard to be near. Anything boiling or muddy? I'm like, no, that's a hazard. That's hot. Number 6, RMS Queen Mary. Heading over to the beautiful Long Beach, California. Here we go. I'll tell you right now, I would never spend a night in this hotel. Nope. I would rather sleep in Stephen King's 1408 hotel room than this RMS Queen Mary situation. During World War II, the ship was in operation briefly, and then it served as a luxury ocean liner from 1936 to 1967. Now, during this time, a killing happened, a sailor was also crushed by a door, very tragic, and a couple people had drowned in the pool. So it's a lot of bad stuff going on here. It's like the back of a DVD of Ghost Ship. You're like, what am I reading? This is terrifying. Cut to 1967, Long Beach purchased that ship and turned it into a hotel, a flotel, dare I say, where now it still sits today. Would you visit here? Would you spend the night in this haunted Titanic, let alone, I wouldn't even step a foot on the boat, no way. Boats scare me in general, let alone ghosts on a boat. Number 5, haunted ballroom. This one I would for sure check out. I would definitely moonwalk in a haunted ballroom. Are you kidding me? This is like the first 8 minutes of that Thriller music video. This house, if you want to call it that, this mansion slash castle, was built between 1871 and 1887 for New Zealand politician William Larnach. And like every other Disney castle, you need to have a 3,000 square foot ballroom. Yeah, no friends required, just here's the big ballroom, good luck. Larnach gave his 21-year-old daughter a ballroom for her birthday. Yeah, here you go, Kate, now go make thousands of friends. Good luck. Would you want a ballroom, like as a gift? That feels like the worst gift ever. What happened to ponies, Dad? Jeez. Kate sadly passed away at age 26 due to typhoid cancer, but death does not get in the way for Kate. No, the spirit of the youngin' is still said to haunt the ballroom and still dance around. So, beautiful on one hand, so terrifying on the other. A haunted ballroom ghost? That's the scariest movie I can imagine. Number 4, the Snedeker House. This is a classic Ed and Lorraine Warren ghost story. They have a few out there, probably too many, but we'll see. It was the main inspiration, believe it or not, to The Haunting in Connecticut. We've seen that movie. It's a classic. It's a good banger right there. Ed and Lorraine got a call from the owners in real life of the home saying that their son was experiencing personality changes. Now at first, maybe you'd laugh at that call. Maybe he's just growing up. Maybe he's a bit moody, whatever. Now this was not the case at all. He wasn't just a moody teen growing up, you know, shut up dad. That wasn't that here. These changes were violent in nature, and on top of that, a pretty obvious other issue, they were seeing apparitions in their home. Son's acting odd, and we also have ghosts, so Ed and Lorraine were of course interested. Why not? Old house in Southington, Connecticut. Alan and Carmen Snedeker then found these tools, old tools used by morticians in their house. Yeah, their home was once a funeral parlor. Fun fact to find out after you've moved in, I guess. That's the worst thing to find out. One day when Carmen was mopping the floor, it apparently turned blood red and began to smell foul. So Ed and Lorraine came to one conclusion, and that was demons. The house was full of them. Yeah, that ought to do it. You start mopping, all of a sudden there's blood everywhere. You're like, well, that's it. It's your home now. Enjoy. Let it dry, and then, yeah, pine saws in the cupboard. Brick legs. Number 3. 455A Sackett Street. Not to be confused with 221B Baker Street, that's where Sherlock Holmes lives. 455A Sackett Street is a haunted apartment in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's not very majestic, not a lot of eyeglasses. Imagine moving to the big city, a big city that's known for being loud, and on top of that, now you have ghosts. Good luck getting a wink of sleep. One lady who grew up in the apartment experienced these hauntings herself. Apparently fires would start randomly, loud bangs would happen in other rooms, all around just bad energy, which given what I just said seems more than fair. Sightings of apparitions were common, but it was always the same female looking spirit. Number 2, cursed stadium. Can a sports team be cursed? I mean, I live in Toronto, home of the Maple Leafs, so our last win was like 1743, I believe. I don't know. But the Chicago Cubs curse, maybe you've heard of this. That was a huge deal for a very long time. The Chicago Cubs curse comes from 1945, when a man named Bill Sionis, nicknamed Billy Goat, great nickname, he was kicked out of a Chicago Cubs game. He actually didn't even get into the game 4 to begin with. Was he too intoxicated, or did he bring a live goat with him to the game? Yep, the latter. That's why he got kicked out. Bill brought with him his pet goat for good luck. So, you know, after the staff said, of course, no, you can't enter the 1945 World Series with a live goat, get out, he then cursed the club over and over on his way out, saying the Cubs ain't gonna win no more. And that was the game that they dropped the ball, pun intended. The Detroit Tigers won, and the curse of the Billy Goat then kicked off for real. It got so out of hand that come 1994, that long later, the Cubs had lost 12 games in a row, their worst home start in history. So Sam Sionis went to Wrigley Field, everybody was chanting to, you know, finally let the goat in, and then the Cubs won 5-2. So, I don't know. It's kind of proven that there was a little bit of a curse here. Number 1, the Borley Rectory. This house was originally built back in 1862. It was a house built for the rector of Borley, but after a fire in 1939, it was of course never the same. It was finally demolished after 1944, but before its final days, the Daily Mirror printed a lot of history about this house, just working for BuzzFeed back in the 40s. Harry Price, a paranormal researcher at the time, reported sightings of a ghost nun or a ghost car that would often drive by. Both probably so distracting to your day-to-day duties. As well as footsteps and unexplained sounds on the property, it was all deemed haunted. A little piece of the haunted home still sits in the Warren Occult Museum today. It's a brick, a nice haunted brick from the Borley Rectory. The rectory, the Borley, just a haunted brick. Hey, come on up to, hey, line on up around the block to see this haunted brick. Yeah, not bad, right? Check out that ghost brick. Number 10, the Dark Hedges. If you've been rewatching Game of Thrones recently, like I have, this first one here should ring a bell. The Dark Hedges, first of all, we love the name, real grim, makes me ask a few questions right off the hop. It's located near the town of Ballymoney in Northern Ireland. Now the beech trees line up alongside the narrow half-kilometer road. A common sighting has taken place at the Dark Hedges. The sighting of one gray lady. Yeah, nice phantom woman. We love those when they appear while you're driving 10 and 2. The Stewart family planted these seeds back in 1775, so perhaps this ghost is somebody who was buried there at the same time. That's my personal guess. Because I can't imagine this land and how much nicer it probably looked back in the 1700s, I can't imagine it not being used for ceremonial purposes. You know what I'm saying? It makes sense when you look at the Dark Hedges that it's completely haunted. I totally believe this road is one of the most top 10 haunted in the world. It's so Tim Burton. Salem Road. Okay, this video shows a couple guys driving in a truck down a road in what looks like a very rural area. There's no actual location confirmed in this video, so sleep in fear. Could be right around the corner of where you live. They're just dudes being dudes, hanging out, driving late at night until they come across a woman, classic, dressed in the classic white apparel. Yeah, walking down the middle of the road, check it out. They're obviously really confused by what she's doing is walking down the middle of the road, and she seems to be unbothered by the fact that there's, a truck driving up behind her. They stop the truck and one of them gets out to go and check on her, and then this happens. The guys continue to freak out, telling them to get out of there, then the other guys don't believe them until they realize out of nowhere that this lady is now all of a sudden in front of their truck. It's honestly like a little mini horror film, this one here. I'm not sure who these guys are or what this lady is or what happened, but that's why I threw it in, because I had to see that shit last night, and I'm like, well, now so do you. Number 8, the Screaming Tunnel. This next one here is in Ontario, Canada, which may or may not be where we are right now. So scared. Maybe I'll check it out on my lunch break, who knows. The Screaming Tunnel. First of all, that name is great. We love those names. That's how you do it. Get right to the punch. There's a few stories behind this one, like most of these, but one version is haunting, and this story sticks with me. If you came out of a tunnel and saw a farmhouse, you wouldn't think anything of it. But the story behind this specific farmhouse is haunting, and as well as the tunnel that leads to it. Near the south entrance, the farmhouse back in the day caught fire, and a woman apparently ran out of the house. She was totally freaked out, obviously, by what's happening. And to this day, we can still hear her screaming echo throughout the tunnel. Number 7, St. Patrick's Purgatory. This one comes all the way from the 15th century. It's been referred to as the entrance to hell, so yeah, buckle up, there you go. St. Patrick's Purgatory is located on Ireland's Station Island, and the tale goes as such. St. Patrick was getting frustrated with his followers. Again, this is way back in the day. They were doubting him until, Jesus himself appeared before him and then guided him to a cave on Station Island. Inside of this cave, there was a pit which was said to be the gateway to purgatory, and they called it Satan's Pit. Again, right to the point. We love that. Now this is apparently where souls go to endure punishments for their sins before being able to enter heaven. All right, gotta go do a little dirty work, a little bit of community service before you go up and have some cosmic cocktails. I don't know. From the 12th century on, the island has attracted those who want to get a closer glimpse of, purgatory, but also in 1632 it was officially closed off to the public, and most of the records of pilgrimages that had taken place prior were destroyed, so history was hidden on purpose. Okay, fine, keep your secrets, but we'll find them. I'll sniff them out. To this day, believers will still travel to the island and participate in a 3-day contemplation of the nature of hell. That's cool. Hey, what are you doing next weekend? I'm actually busy, I'm going to the island. The Toronto Island? No, you gotta think about hell for a bit. Number 6, Moonville Tunnel. About 30 minutes away from the castle in the woods of Vinton County, Ohio, we have this haunted road from the late 1800s. Now, the legend has it, if you walk through this tunnel, you'll hear the cries from a railroad brakeman who lost his life after being struck by, you guessed it, a train. Pretty sad, pretty grim history. Apparently this tunnel has taken more than just one life as well. It was sadly quite common for pedestrians to attempt to walk through it, thinking that it was a shortcut, only to meet an oncoming train halfway through, and of course they have no way to get out at that point. Another account says that if you turn your car off inside this tunnel and sit there, you'll hear the cries of those lost in the tunnel. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Also, keep your car away from the train tracks. Have we seen any movie ever? Don't do that. Even the train track in Mario 64 where you're trying to take that shortcut, I wouldn't even go down that tunnel. That's too scary. Number 5, Tapir Mountain, Belize. Home with the Crystal Maiden Sacrifice. Awesome, sounds comforting already. The Mayans believed that the entrance to their underworld, Xibalba, was located in these cave networks. The name of the cave, Octun Tunichil Mukno, discovered in 1989, translates to Cave of the Crystal Sepulchre, and the nature reserve has already had its fair share of dark stories surrounding it. There were once rivers of blood and scorpions flowing through it, which is literally the worst combo I can think of, personally. The site has been described as a subterranean labyrinth overseen by the Mayan death gods, the lords of said Xibalba. Obviously, explorers love this place. Even me talking about it, I'm like, can we go there? Is this in our budget? Let's do this. And let's be real, even me mentioning Mayan death gods to you, you're probably like, how much is an Uber? I don't know, maybe we'll check out some flights to this Xibalba. Number 4, Mount Hekla. Mount Hekla is a stratovolcano located in South Iceland, so maybe not. Let's not go to this one ever, actually. A stratovolcano. This is an extremely active volcano site, which of course has something to do with people believing that this is the front doors to hell. I mean, to be fair, it feels like it, right? It definitely physically feels like it, and it looks like it. There's an Anglo-Norman poem called The Voyage of Saint Brennan, and in it, it mentions that this volcano is the prison of Judas, the apostle who famously betrayed Jesus. And to add to this apocalyptic image already that you're creating in your head, these firebirds flying around the volcano were once thought to be lost souls. Yeah, or birds that caught on fire because the air is so hot. One of the two, both pretty horrible. It was believed that the volcano was the hot hangout as well for witches who were trying to slide into the devil's DM. Yeah, a lot of cult meetings, what happened at this location. All these legends combined, yeah, it totally makes sense why people would think some sort of dark and evil power lurks inside of the volcano, especially considering it's one of the most active volcanoes in Iceland. In fact, in the world. Number 3, Mayan underworld. Okay, moving back over to the ancient Maya, a lot of good stuff there. Back in 2003 in Mexico, archaeologist Sergio Gomez arrived to work. The beautiful Mayan serpent pyramid, right? Imagine working here. I worked at a movie theater and I was like, nice, this place rocks. This guy works at a serpent pyramid. He's like, yeah? See ya. And out of nowhere, a sinkhole just appeared overnight, right? This was alarming. It was super close to the actual pyramid, so Sergio covered it with a tent quickly, obviously not knowing where to begin with the stressful situation at one of the most historical sites on the planet. Well, what he found that day was hiding underneath him his entire career. He got a few coworkers to lower him into the fresh sinkhole, so right off the bat, this guy deserves a raise or two. He was lowered into this tunnel, and this tunnel was purposely blocked off 2,000 years ago. The tunnel connected the Serpent Pyramid to the Temple of the Moon and to the Temple of the Sun, so it's a hot shortcut, not gonna lie. Now, it's one thing to discover secret tunnels and pyramid entrances your entire life, but to fall down another layer of secrets almost 30 years later, it's almost like life's making him not quit. He's like, yeah, 30 years, I think I'm done here. What? Number 2, the Devil Sinkhole. Yeah, we're on the topic of sinkholes. We made it. We're going down a weird rabbit hole here. I love it. The Devil Sinkhole, great name. Already looking forward to this one. Located in Rock Springs, Texas. We can find this massive 50 feet wide and 400 feet deep hole. Yeah, it's really big. I'm gonna say that this is legally a road or a tunnel because it goes places. Residents first discovered the sinkhole in 1876, and ever since then, arrowheads have been discovered, burnt rocks, signs of life spanning back hundreds and hundreds of years. So yeah, it's a deep, old tunnel that just created itself, which is so scary. Thanks, Earth. These discoveries have led people to believe that it may have once been used as some sort of burial ground, or perhaps even a place of sacrifice. People would crawl in here, sacrifice somebody, and then crawl back out. Wild, that's so scary. Some tunnels are full of ancient artwork as well, spanning back to the beginning of, I don't know, humanity. Others just have bones and bats in them, so it really depends which route you take. It's a nice little gamble. Bones, bats,
Battlestar Galactica,
or treasure. You're like, Residents will often gather in the evening and if they're lucky, see around 3 million bats emerge from said sinkhole and hunt food. So yeah, I can say this is a road to hell for sure. That many bats flying out? Or Bruce Wayne owns it, one of the two. And finally, number 1, the Paris catacombs. What feels like a never-ending maze, these tunnels under Paris stretch for hundreds of miles, and they're also absolutely terrifying. There have been movies on these catacombs. As Above, So Below is terrifying. See, originally these tunnels were built for Paris stone mines, but near the end of the 18th century, its purpose started to shift. Cemeteries were starting to pile up because of, said plagues. Literally, they weren't as good as getting rid of bodies in clean ways, so the dead was just piling up, bodies on top of another. So they were handling them like they would handle garbage, just out of sight, out of mind, right? So the solution here was to use these catacombs that were already existing, right? These tunnels have been there for centuries, so you might as well put them to good use.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have King Tut's cursed artifacts. We will kick off this list in the 18th dynasty. 1332 BC, King Tut was the last of his royal family to rule, and for ages now the pharaoh's treasures, politics, and social status have remained a mystery. Until recent days, it would be extremely hard to get a glimpse at some of the ancient belongings once owned by King Tut, but the new Grand Egyptian Museum has a solution. It was set to open in 2018, then finally come 2021, it did. Now, that's great, that's quite the exhibit, but the contents displayed inside certainly aren't for the faint of heart. For the first time in history, King Tut's ancient belongings, the artifacts discovered with him, will be on display. Prior to the museum being open, we only saw 150 artifacts from his tomb. They took all of the pieces on tour, but now this museum will house thousands of artifacts, the final resting place for King Tut's collection. That's over 7,000 square meters, what a display. Now when we look back to ancient tombs, we can find many ancient curses. If you have a chance to visit the Grand Egyptian Museum, or if you saw this King Tut world tour, I'm jealous, but please don't touch anything. Just leave ancient artifacts alone, perhaps. The curses belong in history. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Tower of London. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying it. It does really help us out. I have been here myself. I did a little tour, took some pics. I had no idea how dark the history was here. Kings were beheaded. Queens were horribly beheaded. And on top of the already existing dark history, witnesses also say they've seen an apparition in the Tower of London. A headless ghost, maybe floating around like it's Hogwarts. How jarring is that? Hopefully no one's, just taking their head off to say good day. A common sighting is that of Thomas Becket, a martyred saint, and Anne Boleyn. If you visit the Tower of London, you might catch a glimpse of the second wife of King Henry VIII. Anne Boleyn was found guilty of treason. She had been charged with having sexual relationships with 5 others, including Lord Rochford, aka her brother, George Boleyn. She had also apparently had relations with Sir Henry Norris, the king's groom of the stool, and on top of all of this, Anne was also found guilty of conspiring to kill her husband. Now it's since been proven that all of these claims were a bunch of rubbish. Anne wasn't even around when all of these things took place. She was still recovering from the birth of her daughter, future Elizabeth I, in October 1533. So there's no way she was fooling around with the groom of the stool. She was kind of busy. All parties involved were executed on Tower Hill in May 1536. Then 2 days later, Anne Boleyn was executed for her crimes. That didn't happen. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Terracotta Army. My least favorite mummy movie, but it's still a good time. Welcome back to Hollywood, Brendan Fraser. Let's go! The tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, is an unbelievable discovery. In this tomb, we can find 6,000 statues, but they all have unique carvings on their face, as if to suggest these are custom statues accurately representing a soldier. All 6,000. Back in 1974, farmers were digging a well. This was 20 miles east of Xin'an, and they stumbled upon a pit that helped all of this history. We believe that around 700,000 workers were putting together this masterpiece for 3 decades. Archaeologists have discovered 8,000 statues in total, with horses and chariots, the emperor's tomb of course. A grim detail here is that in the emperor's tomb, streams of mercury were put around the floor of his burial chamber, and in 2005 over 4,000 samples tested positive for mercury, so to this day less than 1% of the tomb has been excavated. It's simply just too dangerous. The emperor believed that after he had passed, he would have to face the spirits of his enemies, so he wanted to be prepared, even after death. The emperor decided to close the tomb before the workers even had a chance to get out. He was worried that his enemies had found out, so there was lots of statues and dark histories in this one. In our number 7 spot today, we have Highgate Cemetery. Heading over to England yet again, London's Highgate Cemetery is beautiful, but back in the early 1800s, it was booming. The city's population was growing, meaning more more people were dying. We needed more land for bodies, graves were being placed in between houses and shops, so Parliament built 7 cemeteries to help out. The third, built in 1839, was Highgate. Come 1854, the cemetery was full. It was beautiful, everyone wanted to be buried there. An odd desire, but look at it. How inviting is that? It was so popular that they added another 20 acres. More bodies. Let's do it. No worries. Keep piling them on. By the time World War II came along, the cemetery was completely abandoned. In 1960, the cemetery was officially closed. Buildings began to fall onto themselves. The landscaping is just a mess. It certainly looks the part now. Today, many stories are passed around of these men in dark robes. They're said to practice dark rituals in Highgate. It's not uncommon to see apparitions in the cemetery, but red-eyed demons? Highgate is just another level. In our number 6 spot today, we have Newgrange Tomb. Okay, time to get wild. Over in Ireland, there's a tomb built by Egyptians. It's called Newgrange. It's as old as the pyramid, so the belief is that Egyptians also built this. It was first discovered back in the late 1700s, but it's been closed ever since. It's a mystery who or what is inside, but the folklore surrounding the tomb is too good not to include on this list. Locals believe the tomb is a gateway to another realm and that it was built by goblins. If and when this tomb is opened, it's believed goblins will come rushing out. Evil goblins, that is. I didn't know that there was another kind. Are there good goblins? Does that exist? I certainly hope that this doesn't happen. Maybe it's Alexander the Great, maybe they buried him impossibly out of the way, or maybe it is full of goblins. I simply just don't know. In our number 5 spot today, we have Bangor Fort. Back in the 16th century, King Maddo built the massive Bangor Fort in India. The population of this small town was around 1,000. It was a beautiful fort. Many considered this place a luxury. Rightfully so though, it looks like a set piece from Game of Thrones. Legend has it that Princess Ratnavati, who at the time was living in the luxurious fort, was the talk of the town. Dudes were proposing left, right, and center. Princes from all over would come in and try to take her hand in marriage. One day when visiting town, a magician saw the princess shopping for perfumes, so he planned on using black magic on the princess. He mixed it with perfume that she was admiring, but it didn't work. The princess smashed the perfume, and as the bottle broke apart, the magician then cursed the entire fort and those living inside of it, which is really the only reasonable response, you weirdo. Only days later, a war erupted around the fort and there were many casualties. To this day, Bangor Fort is said to be extremely haunted. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Crooked Forest. Forests are already creepy, but this one looks like it's straight out of a Tim Burton film. The Crooked Forest is in Poland. There's around 400 odd-shaped pine trees near the town of Gryfino. These trees are said to be about 90 years old, and all of the trees from the base, they immediately bend towards the north, and then they slowly curved back towards the sky like other trees. Despite this odd bend, these trees are otherwise healthy. There's been so many theories, but none of them really stick. Some suggest it was a gravitational anomaly, but that's a little too far-fetched for me. I don't know. This isn't Interstellar, is it? Other theories claim that there were heavy snowfalls that would weigh the branches down, which could check out, but why is it just a select amount? I've lived in Canada my entire life. I'm from the prairies, like the snowiest of all the places. We have so much snow, and I've never seen a Sleepy Hollow tree. Alright, my favorite theory is that farmers were trying to make the tree curved on purpose to make stronger wheels because the grain direction would make for the natural curved wheels. Again, nobody knows for sure. What are your thoughts? Do we like the wheel theory? I'm gonna keep a spare tree tire just in case. I'll keep it stored safely in the trunk. In our number 3 spot today, we have Huska Castle. According to folklore, Huska Castle, which is located in the north of Prague in the Czech Republic, is built over a bottomless hole that leads directly to hell. The legends claim that the 13th century King Ottokar II offered a pardon to any prisoner who agreed to be lowered into the pit in order to report what was down there. The first prisoner who was lowered into the pit only lasted 30 seconds before he started screaming in fear. Sounds pretty horrible. No way I'd volunteer as tribute. Legend goes that when he was brought back up, his hair had turned white, and apparently he saw these half-human, half-demon creatures that flew through the darkness with scaly wings. The castle was built over the hole without things like a water source or any kitchens, and it is said that this was because it wasn't actually meant to be used by humans, but rather a place to capture the demons should they choose to rise from this mysterious hole. Even demons have a place to crash now. How nice is that? In our number 2 spot today, we have the Turkey Gladiator Arena. Ah yes, another Arena, another staple in history filled with gruesome combat in the name of entertainment. Gladiator 2 was confirmed by director Ridley Scott, so who knows, there's a chance we may see another Gladiator arena like this one in the sequel. An 1800-year-old arena was discovered back in 2020 while we were all stuck inside watching Carol Baskin. They found another Gladiator arena. This is so exciting on one hand, but the history that lies here, not so pleasant. Its purpose was thought to be the same as the Colosseum, to host these massive professional gladiator bouts with wild animals making a cameo here and there. This arena was active, we guess, around 200 AD when the Severan dynasty was ruling the Roman Empire. If betting on animal fights was your thing, you'd travel to this place. Hope you have trail shoes and great knees. I'm weak just looking at those hills. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Valley of the Kings. We started off this list in ancient Egypt, so we might as well finish there. After all, when it comes to ancient mysteries or ancient curses, Egypt still has so much to offer. It is said that any thieves who dare enter or disturb the slumber of the deceased kings shall be cursed and shall perish. Well, this applies to archaeologists too. Howard Carter and his team back in the 1920s had come across the discovery of a lifetime, finding the tomb of King Tut, launching the study of Egyptology. We're still finding tombs in Egypt to this day. That place is a literal treasure chest. The thing is though, after the discovery, some researchers on Carter's team started to feel under the weather. Maybe there was a bug going around, maybe it was too hot, or maybe it was just the curse of the pharaohs. Some men on his team perished from blood diseases or undisclosed circumstances. Many of these ancient tombs have warnings, and I think it might be time we start listening to those.
Kicking off our list at number 10, a cursed phone number. The song 8675309/Jenny has been stuck in my head for about 18 years now. It's a classic. That song is a banger. Great jingle too. Imagine if a pizza place figured that number out first. Would have been game over. A cursed phone number. What are we talking about here? This phone number, apparently cursed, is 359-888 and then a bunch of 8s afterwards, okay? What's the deal here? Anybody who's had this phone number in the last 20 years or so, apparently they've all met their fate in a weird way. CEO of a Bulgarian phone company, he got cancer at 48. And then 2 criminals later on, both of their deaths were a little bit more mysterious than cancer. All these deaths that happened were within 4 years of each other. That's the, curse aspect of it all. The phone number was suspended, so nobody's able to use it now. Maybe it was a cursed number, or maybe the number had ties to crime. 8675309 is still stuck in my head. Number 9. The organ. Music is said to bring life into the room, but this time it's a bit too literal for my liking. There is a real organ in the Occult Museum. This belonged to Ed and Lorraine Warren for quite a while, the paranormal investigators. Of course, all these things are found in a haunted house. In one way or another, it's haunted or cursed, as are all these in this list. This organ apparently would play by itself throughout the night. In total, there were 3 different incidents where Ed thought somebody had broken into the museum because he heard the organ being played, but by the time he arrived in a panic, the room was empty. Classic. Nothing had been touched, there was no visitors. Of course, it was just a cursed piano. Nice. A priest then came to bless the museum and the music eventually stopped. But before her passing, Lorraine Warren said to USA Today that the prayers do work, and they blind the evil much like an electric fence does for a dog. Number 8. Photograph of Bathsheba Sherman. You always see these videos of UFOs and they're filmed with like a BlackBerry curve. It's just rubbish, it's horrible quality. There's never clear evidence of anything nowadays, right? But we may just have a clear photo with the real Bathsheba Sherman, the witch in the original Conjuring film, that real person in real life. Yeah, we have a real photo of a real witch. This is crazy. This photo is from the Perrin family farmhouse back when it was still the Arnold estate. This was 1885, so the witch was most likely in her 70s at this time, and this witch lived next door to said farm, and although we'll never really know for sure, many believe she's the lady in the middle closest to the camera. Also, the fact that she's wearing some sort of mask and she's standing by herself and looks like a witch, I don't know, definitely her, most definitely her. I feel like nobody wants to stand next to a literal witch, It's like a big radius around her. That's how you know it's her. Imagine doing a silly one with Bathsheba Sherman. You're like, hey, bunny ears, don't curse me. Number 7, the Bassano vase. This vase comes from the 15th century. It was made for an excellent wedding gift, but the night before, the bride sadly lost her life with the vase still in her hands, so a lot of questions, right? The family of course kept it afterwards, but as the vase was passed down the family line, a pattern began to unveil itself. Whomever held possession of the Bassano vase died shortly after in a weird, way. Now, keep in mind, this was the 15th century, okay? The average lifespan was already 30 to 40 years old. But after this many deaths in the family, it was packed away for good, okay? Or so they thought. This vase showed up again in history in 1988 alongside a single note. The note was pretty to the point. It said, "Beware, this vase brings death." End of note. Whoever found it was like, okay. And then continued on with it. Yeah, they kept the vase, didn't heed the warning, and then it was auctioned for over $2,000, sans note. Yeah. The pharmacist who won the auction, well, you guessed it, they passed away within months. Number 6, ghost boots. These boots are made for haunting, and that's just what they'll do. Yeah, I put a pair of boots on this list. That's where we're at now. Let's do it. This is a photo of a young lady, and it may look like a classic family trip, but upon closer inspection, it seems like somebody is standing behind her. Now, of course, tracing this photo back to its origins, her father said nobody was behind her at this time, that it was taken, because that would be pretty weird, right? Hey, stand right here in an open field, thanks. Hey, can you move please? There's an open field. Thanks. You know, it's a little weird. This shot was taken at Zushi Kanagawa in Japan. You can see boots and what looks like clothing sticking out from behind her elbow. Father said, "I took a few photos. When I was looking through them at night, I noticed the boots behind her. I took several in the same spot, but only one of these photos had the boots." Yeah, you always see that at movies, right? They're always going through these photos at night at like 2 a.m. Then they find something scary. It's never at Walmart in the middle of the day. You know what I mean? It's always scary in a dark kitchen. Ugh. What would you do? I would freak out. And he freaked out, obviously. He showed a friend, and then said friend posted it on Reddit, hence why we're here now. Haunted boots. The more you know. Number 5, the Anguished Man. Historical paintings are cool. I guess. I don't know, they're pretty interesting. But this is the first time I've read up on the Anguished Man myself, and I wish I didn't, to be honest. It's pretty unsettling. It's now considered one of the most haunted objects in the world, and it looks like the part 2. It looks like it's from a horror movie. This oil painting was created by, of course, an unknown artist, but the actual paint here used in the painting is mixed with blood, real blood. Their legit DNA is in this painting, whoever it is. Their blood, sweat, and tears. Great. Not much is known of the artist as they passed away shortly after, but the current owner is Sean Robinson from Cumbria, England. His grandmother had given him said painting. There wasn't much known beforehand. Maybe she just found it at an auction, whatever. But his grandmother did warn him that it was cursed. Yeah, here's some Werther's original, and also here's a cursed painting. Enjoy. Sean had to leave it in his basement at first because his wife wasn't on board. More than fair. I'd be like, no, can we not? Can we turn it around? Thanks. But when the basement randomly flooded, he had to move it upstairs at that point, which is already pretty creepy. Now after, the couple heard crying or screams or whispering, things you don't want to hear alone in a house with a haunted painting coming from the room with the painting. It got so bad Robinson uploaded time-lapse footage to YouTube in 2011, and it shows the door closing by itself next to the painting. Also, yeah, keep this in the basement or flood it, I don't care. I agree with the missus here. Number 4, music box. We had to include one of the creepiest elements of the Conjuring movie because it's a real thing. Director James Wan wanted to use the music box in the first film because, you know, mirrors and creepy tones make for great suspense and all that jazz. But this was also a real haunted artifact from the real haunted house. Today the box is safely stored in the Warren's Occult Museum, like I mentioned before, just a fun house of scary that you should definitely never touch, alongside other items that look more or less normal, right? One of which is the real Annabelle doll. This part of the movie actually scared the shit out of me. Any mirror scene, I can't do it. I end up eating my hoodie. They always do it slow too. I hate movie scenes that include mirrors. But this is real life though, you can't forget that. This music box actually caused a lot of trouble for these poor girls. Specifically April, youngest of the Perrin family. She found this unique antique in the house and then she used it to communicate to another spirit. A spirit that just happened to be named Rory. Yeah, it's a great haunted name, Rory. Nice, it's not friendly at all. In the movie, this was a happy ending, whatever, but in real life, the Bathsheba Sherman case was never resolved. Number 3, the Hope Diamond Curse. Coming from the 1660s, here we go. This curse began when a gem dealer named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought this large diamond when visiting India. Or so he said, he bought it. The origins of the diamond were unknown, but it didn't matter. This beauty was just sitting there. Well, later on, after he got the diamond, rumors started spreading throughout Europe and the United States that Tavernier actually stole the diamond from a statue of a Hindu goddess. Yeah, that sounds a little more on the nose. That's a bit more accurate. Little different than his story, but sadly, a little more believable. The newspapers actually kicked this one off by publishing the Hope Diamond as an ancient curse. That ought to help, right? That spreads the word, I guess. The diamond at one point ended up in the hands of King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. Now, if you don't know about them, they were, they had some rough history happen with their heads being off their body and stuff. They lost their lives during the French Revolution, to say the least. The guillotine dream team, that's what we call them. The stone then went to Lord Francis Hope come 1839, and by that point it was deemed cursed. This is when it got the name the Hope Diamond, right? They ended up selling said diamond shortly after being reduced to poverty, and then Evelyn Welsh McLean bought the stone in 1912. Shortly after that, her son was killed in a car accident. When the stone was delivered to its final and current home, the Smithsonian, back in 1958, the driver who was delivering the package was later hit by a truck. Now he survived, but shortly after his house caught fire. Moral of the story, you don't need diamonds, for more reasons than one. Number 2, the Busby Stoop chair. Coming from 1702, 10 years after the Salem witch trials, so take this one with a grain of salt, people made odd choices back then, okay? Women were witches because they knew math, and chairs were evil. Welcome to 1702. Good luck. Englishman Thomas Busby had some issues with his father-in-law. He didn't handle them well, so now he had to be hanged for it. Yeah, he can't commit crimes to resolve problems. It's not a good thing. Can't just kill people for no reason, Thomas. What is this, 1692? He was hanged near the Humble Inn, which is an ironic name, but a chair that was nearby is now said to hold the spirit of one Thomas Busby. If you sit on this chair, you are set to die in a frightful accident. So the chair was declared haunted, but did anything actually happen? Yeah. Locals say during World War II, airmen from a nearby base came to the pub, and those who sat on it never returned. And then in the 70s, more accidents were connected, but they still kept it around until 1978. Yeah, it stayed in the inn for that long, until it was donated to the Thirsk Museum. It's not even a rocking chair either. It looks like it should be a rocking chair, but it's not a rocking chair. That's the scariest part in my opinion. You try and lean back, you're like, oh, I really thought it was gonna rock there. Damn, it's disappointing. And finally, number 1, a ghost caught in a photograph. Yeah, this one ought to end the list in a pretty bizarre way. Doesn't matter where or when, but odds are you've seen this photo at some point in your life. You know when you see a photo, sometimes you just get bad vibes, like it registers in your brain as something scary but also real. Like you want to find something that looks fake about this photo, but it's tough. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It's a young lad with glowing white eyes, kind of hard to miss. It was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared, and it makes it even creepier that the boy looks like he's peeking around the corner. Nice, just hiding from you in his invisible ghost land. We love it. A photographer named Gene Campbell took this photo, and Gene at the time was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show, and many believe this is the ghost of one John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there prior to that 1974 event. Yeah, we're still trying to figure this out. What do you guys think? Elaborate hoax, or perhaps this is one solid piece of evidence that the Amityville house is indeed haunted and ghosts are indeed real? Kicking off our list at number 10. Israel Cursed Tomb. Here we go, right off the hop. A secret tomb was discovered in Israel only a month ago. Now this is the first time a tomb has been found at the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 65 years. Now the actual cave itself was discovered only a year ago, but these smaller chambers are being found recently, as like a month ago recently. And the tomb found came along with a message. Awesome, we love those. It vows to curse anybody who would open the grave, and this message is also written in blood red, so yeah. Can we not open this one, maybe? Last time we had a black sarcophagus in Egypt, people were sticking their heads in for no reason, just to see what's up. And then, you know, a plague happened. So, number 9, Polish King Curse. Some of you may remember this, or your parents might so ask them about this at dinner. Yeah, make it weird tonight. Ask them about a Polish king curse tonight while you're eating food. Back in 1973, a team of archaeologists were jazzed when they uncovered an ancient 15th century tomb. The tomb of the Polish king at the time, King Casimir IV Jagiellon. Now media was of course all over this discovery, as they should be, it was exciting. Now everyone was of course making jokes about a curse. You kinda have to, right? We're all thinking about it. What if there's a curse? I don't know. Open it though, still. Some team members involved ended up dying after the discovery. It was a little odd. There were a few who said it was due to a curse, but the sudden illnesses were in fact caused by deadly fungi inside the tomb. So it still was the tomb's fault, but it wasn't a curse per se. It was breathed in, and that's what led to these researchers' untimely death. Number 8, King Tut's Curse. Here we go. Since we're on the topic of illnesses or curses, let's go back 50 more years, shall we? To the legendary discovery of King Tut's tomb in 1922. This discovery is what made everyone, so paranoid when that Polish king curse came out, right? This discovery and what followed is the main reason we believe in mummy curses today. One member of the expedition, George Herbert, passed away suddenly 6 weeks after they opened King Tut's chamber. It was not toxic mold, it wasn't a curse, but rather it was a mosquito bite on the cheek. He got blood poisoning from a mosquito bite, that's all it was. I mean, I'm sure digging up bodies from the past and opening the tombs up doesn't help karma in general, but it wasn't a curse written in red. Not this time. Number 7, a strange resting place. Ancient burial grounds. Okay, these tombs, they come in many different shapes and sizes. Some can be these massive Great Pyramids, and others can be a shallow cave system. Sometimes there's ancient history right below your feet, and you'd never know. In St. Augustine, for example, the remains of a donkey were found buried underground. And judging from the skull and the bones and the placement, something was afoot here. It had clearly been hunted down by humans and placed there purposefully. That's not the mysterious part at all. The mysterious part is that all the bones have been carefully separated and there's no marks to suggest that any tools were used. So researchers believe that this thing wasn't even used for food. So what was it? The limbs were placed to point north and south. That's it. They used this donkey as a compass. How rude is that? What? Donkeys in that area of Florida in the 17th century, that's not bizarre at all. But the way the bones were buried, north and south, that's very odd. That's very Game of Thronesy. Know what I'm saying? What's the message here? What's the point? What's the point? Besides north and south, of course. Number 6, tortoise tomb. Okay, somebody called Mario. We got a lot of shells to explain. Okay, pal? Back in 2005 in northern Israel, a tomb of a shaman, who we believe was a 45-year-old woman at the time of her passing, was found in a cave. It was a cave/tomb. Like I said, many different shapes and sizes. There were 28 other skeletons as well, and it appears they had a 6-stage burial. There were beautiful decorations to suggest such, but something that really stood out here were the 86 tortoise bodies discovered in the corner of the tomb. What's going on here? What did we miss? I have FOMO, but I'm not sure why. Was this an ancient feast or a long-lost sacrifice? Either way, poor guys. Number 5, the sitting man. Okay, of all the tombs to find, this one would be the most horrifying. This would be so jarring to stumble across, okay? Buckle up. Back in 2005, researchers found a Mayan tomb in Honduras from the 5th century, okay? It's a long time ago. And the body inside was not lying down. It wasn't a pile of bones pointing east or west this time. Rather, it was in a chair, sitting up, like a villain from Zelda. How scary would that be? I mean, it's beautiful, but that's jarring to stumble across. You know what I mean? Whoever was the first person to look and see that, brave soul, that's all I'm saying. The body found, it appears to be an elite member of the Mayan Empire. He passed away, we think, around 650 AD. Yeah, the guy gets propped up in a chair. That's awesome. His legs were crossed and he was rocking jade jewelry. This was very royal. And the tomb itself was actually upright as well. It's common fear to be buried alive, but in this case, you'd have plenty of room. You'd be like, oh, we're good. These types of tombs are actually quite rare to find, but the fact that this one is also in great condition and there's somebody sitting cross-legged inside, double rare. Here we go. Number 4, the Terracotta Army. This is, talk about curses. Oh boy. The tomb of Emperor Qi Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Okay, in this tomb, we can find 8,000 statues. This one is quite loaded. I almost made this number 1 just out of principle. But they all have unique carvings on their face, as if to suggest these are all custom statues, all representing an individual from that long ago. All 8,000 of them. The emperor believed that after he had passed away, he would have the spirits of his enemies to face, so he wanted to be prepared even after death. The emperor decided to close the tomb before the workers even had a chance to get out. It was horrible. He was worried his enemies had found out, so there's of course lots of statues down there and a lot of dark history, just all piled into one. I would never go near this. I think The Mummy 3 is about this tomb. It didn't do so well, but yeah. Scary concept. Number 3, message from Egyptian afterlife. We're all curious what happens after you die, of course, but nobody celebrated the end of your days like ancient Egyptians did, right? It's beautiful. Like I've mentioned before on this channel, they would have these fake painted doors. They would leave valuables. Any new tomb that we discover provides more hints as to what lies beyond, right? An ancient necropolis was discovered only a few years ago, again in Egypt. It contains dozens of coffins and a necklace that holds a message from the afterlife. Okay, now we're talking. This site is around 2,000 years old and they're in the process of excavating it as we speak, / as I mansplaining to you about these tombs. But so far the tombs and artifacts found, officials think, belong to an ancient priestess. A message from the afterlife is pretty spectacular, but what does it say exactly? Well, we're still waiting to find out. These things take time, you know? Number 2, mythical carvings. Back in 2014, a 1700-year-old cemetery was discovered along the Silk Road, which are these ancient trade routes, ancient highways rather, connecting China and the Roman Empire. Now in the city of Kucha, now in northwest China, the cemetery was found along with 10 ancient tombs, one of which was referred to as M3. M3 didn't have any haunting messages this time around, but it did contain several carvings of mythical creatures. Creatures that were once alive? Question mark. There's the white tiger of the west, the black turtle of the north, the vermilion bird of the south, so far so lovely, and then there's the azure dragon of the east. A little bigger, a little bit more mighty. These mythical carvings represent different seasons and the heavens, but could the other 6 carvings mean depictions of hell? Probably, possibly. And finally, number 1, the Ring of Sekenianas. One ring to rule them all. And by rule, I mean curse you and your entire family. Don't touch this. This is why you don't steal from ancient tombs. Has to be number 1. This 12-gram gold ring, for starters, looks beautiful. And secondly, it's massive. Its diameter was 25 millimeters, so unless you were wearing some sort of infinity gauntlet, she's probably gonna fall off your little Jack Skellington fingers, you know what I mean? The ring had first been found in 1785. A farmer was plowing a field in Silchester Village, a village west of London known for its grim history, because in 45 AD, ancient Romans invaded that site, and come the 7th century, it was completely abandoned. And probably pretty cursed. The ring was mighty and even had an inscription on it, a Latin inscription, of course. It read, Senequian vivas indium. And when 1929 rolled around, new details surfaced, or resurfaced rather. The data from the ring matched an excavation that was done in the early 1900s less than 100 miles away, in a place called Lydney. That's where this ring is from. At the same site, however, a tablet was found recalling the Celtic god of healing and hunting, and how his favorite ring got stolen. I'm connecting some stories here. Uh-oh, I may have stolen something I shouldn't have. If this rings a bell, yes, Lord of the Rings was inspired by this exact legend. The tablet also says, may he who bears the name of Senequianus not have health until he brings the ring back to the Temple of Nodens. Yeah, let's get that ring back ASAP Rocky. That would be great. I'll be a lot quicker than Lord of the Rings. I'll be a lot quicker than 3 movies. I'll tell you that. Where's this temple? I'll put in my Uber right now. I'm on my way.